Wait a second. This isn't your grandma's cancer show.
Not your grandma's cancer show.
Hi, I'm Tatum, and today we're talking about what it's like to lose one of your friends to cancer. And I remember years ago, probably about 15 years ago, I was in a furniture shop and I was talking to the salesperson who was telling me what it was like living in the 80s and the friends that they had lost to AIDS. And it felt like a world so far away. I couldn't imagine losing any of my friends, let alone more than one. And it was something that I was concerned about coming into the kind of cancer support community. And I know that it can make a lot of other people reluctant. Like, what if you meet friends and then they die? And it can be really hard to find a space to talk about that loss. The loss of our peers is sometimes not spoken enough about. Just in general, I think we're really bad in our culture talking about it. But also when it's our cancer friends, sometimes it can be hard talking to people outside of the cancer world, and also a bit tricky to talking to people inside it as well. So that's what we're going to do today. I've got two wonderful guests with me. I've got Mari, who actually, a little bit like me, was also reluctant, a bit reticent about going into a support group, thought it might be all a bit depressing, but it didn't turn out to be that way. And I also have Hannah, and Hannah works with me at Shine. She has also been a part of Shine for, oh my, Hannah, you have to come in here and tell me how long.
It's 2018, so that's when I found Shine in 2018.
Yeah, and so you've got your own experiences as well as facilitating other people processing the loss of their friends. So I'm so happy that you're both here today. And Hannah, can you tell me a little bit about what was going on in your life when you were diagnosed?
So I was diagnosed back in 2014. It was the year of the weddings, as I call it, not mine, I hasten to add, because I hadn't found a winning victim at that point to kind of marry me. It was the year of the weddings, so I was maid of honour for two of them, and I think I had 4 weddings that year, hen galore.
Wow.
Big bills looming, and just like lots of sort of weekends away with hens, probably raucous fairs. Work was crazy busy. And yeah, life seemed quite good, really. I really hadn't considered any kind of health condition at all. So yeah, I got diagnosed in July 2014 with a swelling in my neck, which I think if it had probably been in my boob or somewhere like that, I might have referred to it as a lump and perhaps would have considered cancer was an option. But to me, that never even jumped into my head until I got a call at work one day. So yeah, life changed very quickly. Overnight, really. I ended up getting the diagnosis and within 2 weeks was on active treatment for Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I wasn't going to work anymore. And so all of your immediate social circles remove themselves, don't they, I guess, because you end up treadmill of treatment, hospital, feeling ill.
And so did you make all those weddings, or were there some weddings that you didn't get to attend because of the treatment?
I did make all the weddings. In fact, I was maid of honour for one 4 days after my first chemo.
Wow.
And being an inpatient, I think 24 hours before. I've ever been to on elderflower juice, and certainly made it for an interesting view on the world of lots of drunk people.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's pretty hardcore. That's pretty wedding core. Yeah.
I even went into hospital with my bridesmaid shoes to kind of practice walking in them. So keeping it real.
Yeah. And what did you think about getting support? Like, did you think, oh, yeah, first thing, I'm going to seek out a support group or, find other people like me? Or how did you feel about it?
I think back in 2014, I wasn't really sure what I thought about it. I did join a few support groups, one for my particular type of cancer, which was great. But majority of people there were a lot older, and as lovely as they were, and they were all very upbeat. Their challenges that they faced were very different to the challenges I faced, because most of them were over 60. So there wasn't any impact on sort of mortgage or careers or things like that. They were financially stable because they were on pensions. So that was good. I joined another support group locally, which was really nice, like in a coffee forum. Kind of went into that a little bit with intrepidation, really, because what do people sit and have coffee about? And they just talk about cancer, and is it all a bit people playing around like a circle? But actually, that wasn't my experience at all. Everybody was super friendly. Everything was quite upbeat, a lot of camaraderie. So actually, once you've taken that initial first step, it wasn't too bad. But I didn't actually find Shine until my relapse in 2018. And my first introduction to Shine was driving from Manchester to Bournemouth to spend a whole weekend with 25 other individuals that had got cancer. And it wasn't until I got to the car park and I sat there and thought, what have you done, you muppet? This could be the worst thing you've ever done. But I'd set myself a challenge at the beginning of that year, which was I had to take on new challenges. Regardless of what they were, I had to take on. So this was my first one. I think it was about the 5th of January or something crazy. But actually, it was the best thing I ever did.
Oh, yeah. I know. I was there at that escape. And it's such a leap of faith, isn't it? Like you didn't even like come to a 1-day event. You came for a whole 4 days, really.
Yeah, and it took me 5 hours to drive there as well. So I'm really quite committed by that point.
And so the person that walked in and the person that walked out of that weekend, how would you describe them? I
mean, I'm an extrovert, so I was quite confident when I walked in, but actually I think because I'd been on my cancer journey for quite a while by that point, I'd gone back into work in between. It felt like I'd found, and we actually call ourselves, they're my tribe, and I found my tribe because actually I could talk openly and honestly without having to caveat or justify anything. You didn't have to explain how chemo made you feel or the impact it had on your body image or the impact it had on your friendships. And so for me, it was a really powerful experience. And I guess over the course of that weekend, they took us on a journey of understanding. And you suddenly start to realise that this being ill-lark, as I perhaps termed it, pre-joining something like Shine, is actually much bigger than getting a bit ill. Because I guess previously to that, I'd only really probably ever had a cold. So you're ill for a few days.
Right.
And so I'm quite fortunate in that perspective. But obviously you get ill and you get well. So I guess that's what you hang on to, isn't it? When you get a cancer diagnosis or a serious health condition, you focus on getting well, but then you realise, as I did, that actually there's still lots of unanswered questions and there's still lots of things that aren't quite right with you. And let's face it, for me, they're never going back to how they were before. And I know that's true with you guys as well. So for me, it was that instant spark and the ability just to talk to people honestly. And it still amazes me now how open and honest people are that come to Shine events and they've never met people before and how they can just talk so candidly about what they've gone through. Some of the most complex things they've probably ever gone through in life, really.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's almost like friendships are sped up, aren't they? Because you get to meet someone in such a different circumstance and you can know incredibly deep things about them but have no idea what they do for work or what they did or what their partner's name is, or these other things that you would normally know, but their deepest fears at 3 a.m. and how they're navigating their body. It's really quite an amazing experience when you do find your tribe like that. And do you still talk to them now?
Yeah, I mean, our WhatsApp is still active. Granted, it's not as active as it was when we first left the group in 2018. I think on the Monday, by the time I got back into it, I think we've done 400 messages by 11 a.m. And I'm like, whoa, I can't keep up with it. Not as active as that. But yeah, it's still an active group. We're still all in communication with each other, inside and outside of that forum. And it's great when we meet up. Obviously, the last few years made that a little bit trickier. Yeah, we're just there for each other. And that's true of other people I've met across Shine as well, not just that group of people. I think the honesty and openness that forms as part of a group where you get taken on an understanding of why you feel like you do or the impact that treatment has on you is a really powerful one. And there are tears shed. Let's not kid ourselves. But there's also a lot of laughter and fun.
Mm-hmm.
That actually, and it removes the loneliness and isolation as well, I think.
And sometimes the darkest humour, that no one else would understand. And if there was anyone
real dark humour.
listening in.
Actually, as part of the lifers group of our group, they went off and kind of looked at long-term life planning. And one of them came back with come die with me. So it was a take on come dine with me and pimp my coffin. So we were in hysterics. Now, actually, only within a community like this would people probably understand. If you start talking about come die with me in the outside world, people probably sit there and sort of put their hands over their head and kind of cringe. But actually,
dying laughing, weren't they? I mean, because they were like trying to think through the logistics of like how to rate each other's funerals and who would be the last one and like it was, and they were in hysterics. The release of that was just so palpable from them, and then the rest of the room, wasn't it?
Yeah, no. Then following that, in the WhatsApp group, we were asked to like provide music that you might play at a funeral. So like Light My Fire and things like that were coming out. There was all sorts of weird and wonderful songs that were coming out. So there's some that are really quite popular and others that you've not heard of. But yeah, but you know, it's part of the it's part of the sad part, but out of it comes humour. And I guess that's really that other people are feeling like that. And actually, it's important that people feel free to talk about it, isn't it? Really,
yeah.
I think.
And who was your first friend who passed away from cancer?
I've lost a couple within my Shine group. I think that was probably my first experience of it. So unfortunately, within that 2008 group, we lost a couple of people within the first year. That was really tough. And then I've lost a few within my network as well. And then 2019, I lost a very close friend of mine, actually, outside of the Shine community. And that is really tough. It's really hard. But I guess I've been at this a little while now, and I have started to focus on the good that they've brought into my life, which I appreciate is not easy to do, but I think it's true of any experience, isn't it, in life? The only things we're guaranteed of is you're born and you die. And I guess in the cancer world, we know when we're going to die in some ways. And so I guess it brings that to the forefront and we talk about it. Whereas actually in the normal everyday world, people can happily be going on with their life, and actually they could die anyway, and we wouldn't necessarily be as planned for that. But I've not let it impact the relationships I've had with people that have formed within cancer support groups. I think they bring a lot to me in terms of their knowledge and their wealth and their fun, and I'd be a better person for knowing that. So I think I guess, let's face it, none of us chose a cancer diagnosis. Like nobody who ever puts that on a life plan. But I guess from that, I've developed some awesome friendships with people that will be friends for life. And so if I'd not had the cancer, those people wouldn't be in my life. And some of those people are still here, and I hope they will still be here for a long time. And sadly, some of those people have only been or touched my life for a very short period of time. But I think the people I have lost have done so with such dignity and camaraderie right up until the end, that actually in order to honour them, they would want me to still be living my best life, I guess, and having fun, but remembering them and using what they've taught me really to either help other people or to help myself. I'm not sure if I that too well. But,
no, you explained that beautifully. And yeah, I can relate to that. I think when something happens outside, this is the thing. When you lose someone, say, in an accident, it doesn't necessarily ring the same bell as when you have cancer and your friend dies of it. And I know that some of the feelings that can come up in this kind of complicated grief are survivor's guilt, and also the guilt of feeling like you're making it about you instead of making it about your friend. Because I think a lot of people are like, no, I want to 100% just think about my friend. But actually they're terrified on the inside, and there isn't like somewhere for that to be expressed. And I was just wondering, is that something that you've seen, Hannah, or you've experienced at any point?
Survivor's guilt's real. I think with anybody that you lose, I think you never really understand why, especially within the community of Shine, people being so young. I think if people are older, it's more accepted that they've lived a good life. But, somebody's in their 30s, 40s, 50s. I mean, they've kind of started on life. And they've still got a lot to give. And survivor's guilt is always going to be there because they haven't necessarily done anything different to me. It's just that their time is their time. And it's inevitable. I think you put yourself in their shoes and don't understand why it's happened to them but not you, or how you're still alive. But none of us know why any of this happens in the first place, do we? Otherwise, we'd be able to do something about it. Yeah, it's survivor's guilt. I don't know, it's taken me quite a long time to kind of get to grips with that a little bit. And again, I'm a little bit out of treatment, so that does help, I guess. But I believe that if I was in that person's shoes, and that's how I always look at it now, and I was the person that wasn't here and the other person was here, that I wouldn't want them to feel guilty for my loss. I'd want them to remember me and use the bits that I've maybe left with them, whatever wonderful components that might be. And, you know, go and have laughter and camaraderie in my honour, really, or have a glass of wine or a gin and tonic, because, you know, or go and do some random camping trip in a field and float in water, whatever that might be. I think I'd rather people go and do that and remember me for that than be sitting there sorrowful. I'm not saying that is don't remember me or raise a glass to me or whatever that might be, or light a candle. I've got a star on my windowsill in memory of my friend, just as a little reminder each day that he was a big important part of my life. And you know, he got diagnosed in the August and sadly died in the November. So that was really quick.
Really fast.
Guilt with that is massive, because, you know, I went through a long, laborious treatment, and you kind of think, well, how have I come out the other side? And he didn't even manage to get onto treatment because the diagnosis was too late. So for that, there is some real survivor's guilt, but actually he wouldn't want that. He would want me to remember him, do some weird and wonderful things in honour of him.
Right.
But also want me to live and be laughter and smiling and, you know, and doing the things we used to do, because actually none of us know what's around the corner, do we?
No, I do think there is a normalizing if you do experience survivor's guilt. Like, I think it is quite a normal feeling to have, and it sounds like what you've done is channeled it and thought about a way of framing it that really honours your friend and is lovely. Yeah, I mean, I know for me, like, I remember hearing about somebody and just breaking into a complete panic attack and not knowing if I was panicking 100% for them or for me or for all of us, or like, why is the world this way? But it was like one thing led to another. And I think that grief is just, it's, I mean, how many different emotions come underneath grief, right? Like, it's all the things. And so, you know, there can be those days of anger, of frustration, of, you know, sadness, of like trying to make meaning. And what it sounds like you've done, Hannah, is like, yeah, like you're finding meaning in that gin and tonic and that light and going camping trips. And I really want to bring Mari in here. Mari, I can see you smiling. I can see you relating to a lot of this. How has it been to listen to Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, I echo pretty much everything that Hannah's said. There's so many similarities in you know, in what she says to what I think and feel and have been through. So yeah, I would echo a lot of what she said.
And what was going on? What was happening in your life when you were diagnosed?
So I was initially diagnosed in 2015. I had no symptoms. It came very out of the blue. Things were going well in life. I just sort of worked my way up into my career. I had my dream job. I was traveling lots. I had a lovely boyfriend, and we were talking about, you know, potentially getting engaged soon and getting married, and everything was going well. And I had lots of friends. I was very social. I was out all the time, a party girl. And life was really good. I was 31 at the time, and I had sort of like all the usual hopes and dreams and aspirations for the future that a 31 would have. And then one day out of the blue, I just got extreme belly pain, and then quickly had a lot of tests done. And within about 10 days, I went from thinking I was a sort of healthy and healthy, happy 31-year-old to being told I had stage 4 bowel cancer, and it sort of spread to my ovaries, and it wasn't looking good. And at the first oncologist meeting, sort of said to me they'd put me on palliative chemotherapy and really weren't sure about the outcome. So I kind of left his office almost planning my funeral that day. And it was quite a lot to get my head around.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was in 2015. I went through a lot of treatment, chemo and operations and all sorts of stuff, and amazingly became disease-free. I went into complete remission and I was disease-free for a couple of years. I was off everything, and which was weird as well, because it was like a kind of like get out of jail free card had been given to me, and like and I was sent back to normal life. It was a strange adjustment as well, to go from just being in the treatment thing to suddenly off you going back to normal life. But I did, and I sort of pieced life back together, and I worked really hard to get my job back in place, and we got married. Me and the lovely boyfriend got married.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we moved forward with life. We started traveling again, and we started doing all the stuff we loved. And then unfortunately I was diagnosed with on a routine scan, surveillance scan, I was diagnosed with lymph node recurrence, which is non-operable again. So I'm back to being stage 4 again. So it was a hard blow to take. Up to that point, I'd kind of always thought, oh, I don't need support. I'm doing okay. I'm strong. I don't need, I was quite deluded, I think, into thinking that I could do it all on my own. But the recurrence hit me really, really hard, more so than the initial diagnosis, actually, because I'd gone through it all, had all the treatment, completed treatment, and got a taste of what normal life was like again. And then it was snatched away again. And that was even more difficult than just being in it first time round. And also, first time round, I had the naivety of not knowing what was going to happen to me, and just went into it and did it. Whereas the second time round, I knew what treatment was like and how hard it had been and what side effects I'd had, and that I was going to face all that again and still have to, go and present my arm to take the stuff, knowing all that. So it was tough to do that.
And is that what got you over that reluctance to find a support group? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So at that point, I hit a really low ebb, and it was during the height of the COVID pandemic. So I was shielding, so I wasn't allowed to see, friends, and apart from like my immediate family. At the time when I needed the support the most. I couldn't get it, and I couldn't go for, like, on the first time round, we used to go, I have my cycles, and I'd be like, yeah, it's going to be bad for a few days, but on my good days, we'd plan to go for a spa day, or go for a cinema, or go for a meal, or do something that made it bearable. Whereas this was just like, have treatment and go home and be in your house and don't like see anyone. And all the exact anxiety as well was horrendous, worrying about COVID. Will I get COVID? I've done all this, and will it actually be a virus that finishes me off rather than, There was so much going on, and I just thought, actually, I could do with some help here. And it was very isolating, especially with the COVID thing going on.
So did you come along at that point to a breakout program?
Yeah. So I looked up for help and came across Shine, and I thought, well, that sounds really good. It sounds like similar people to me, and it's online, which is good, because at least I'll be able to still interact with people, and that'd be nice. And I came across the breakout program. I did that, and it was amazing. Initially, I was one of those people who was very reluctant to join a support group. I had kind of fixed beliefs about what a support group looked like or would be, which were totally wrong, were misheld beliefs. But I always thought, oh no, I'm not, I don't want to join. I'm upset and down about my own issues. I certainly don't want to join a group of 10 other people talking about their depressing issues and upsetting things. How's that going to help? That's not going to help anybody. And that was my, it's going to be horribly depressing.
And how did you feel at the end of the program? So sort of asking you the same question that I asked Hannah.
Yeah. So it was a 6-week program, where you get put into a small group with about 6 or 8 other people. I think it was 6 in our group, and a facilitator who facilitates each session. it's scheduled in each week, which was a really important factor for me because it's like the gym. Sometimes if you've got a class booked in, you'll go and do it, and it's good for you. If you don't, you'll be like, oh, maybe I'll do it tomorrow, and you never get around to doing it. So I think the fact that it was a scheduled in weekly regular thing, and it was with the same 6 people who you developed strong relationships with, and you felt safe with those six people, was really, really good. And from the very first, I kind of went into it going, this isn't going to be for me. It half-heartedly going into it just so I can say to my family, because my family were like, look, you know, why don't you just give something a go, because you're down and maybe it might help. And I was like, nah, it's not going to help, but I'll do it just for them, kind of thing. And oh, how wrong was I? My only regret about it is that I didn't do it in 2015 when I was first diagnosed, that it took me till 2020, going through all of that on my own before I came across it. It was brilliant. The first session I joined up, I could instantaneously just tell that it was a lovely bunch of people. And although we all had different diseases, different stages, different whatever, we all had like common, like a camaraderie. Yeah, like Hannah said, camaraderie. There was camaraderie.
Tasha in your group?
Yeah, so all the people in my group were great, and I still am in contact with all of them. But of one particular person, we just clicked instantaneously on the very first meet. I mean, we were just like 2 peas in a pod. It was unbelievable, incredible, the similarities that me and that girl had. Of all the people, if you could handpick a friend who would be forget cancer, but just on values, interests, thought processes, shared sense of humor, on all those aspects.
And I heard you both shared a dark sense of humor as well.
We did. We had our moments. Sometimes you have to laugh or you cry, honestly, and you have to make light of a situation. Sometimes it's the only way to get you through. Sometimes I also find that it removes some of the power of the disease itself if you kind of belittle it a little bit, and it helps you take control of it a little bit. But yeah, she loved a little drink of wine and stuff, and often on our WhatsApp groups, she would always be there with her little glass of wine. And we used to joke about things like when I was going for CT scans and I would be having my bowel prep, she used to always text me and say, well, ask them to stick a cocktail umbrella and a maraschino cherry in it for you. Let's jazz it up a bit. Or when I was going on a holiday for the first time for years, and I was so excited about it, she would text me funny things like, yeah, just make sure that you don't automatically sort of jump on to the scan machine and go through with the suitcases. So we used to having scans, or we used to joke about our hair loss. We both had lost our hair, and we used to joke about, it was a painful thing. We both really loved our hair if it was upsetting, but we used to make it light by joking about it. So we used to sort of text various different sort of stages of our crazy hair regrowth, and we had names for them. So we had sort of the I've been at the Edward Scissorhands salon today and I've chunks out, or yes, I'm featuring the Friar Tuck look today.
Yes.
We joked about our hair, and it was a bit of a running joke that I actually somehow was spending more on hair than when I had hair. Buying all these wigs and hair products and scalp products, and so we laughed about things like that.
And when did you lose Tasha?
Back in July time, yeah, just a few, still quite recent, fairly recent. And although we both had stage 4 disease, and that, that's always there, and you always, like Hannah says, have some preparation or acknowledgement that that might be what happens. It still came as a shock.
Yeah.
It still came as a shock. She was doing really well, and things did happen quite suddenly towards the end. But yeah, it did still really shake me. And despite the fact that knowing how ill she was, it still came as a big sort of shock and a big realization to me as well, again. And reminded me about my own issues and my own health. And
how was that for you? Kind of both grieving her, but also that impact on you?
Yeah, so it was difficult. Like you say, I sometimes would be feeling panicked or worried, upset about, and I didn't really know what, was I upset about her? Was I worried about and upset for myself, for all of us, for her family, for, there were just so many things in there. I just felt so sad. And then sometimes I'd feel guilty if I did bring it on to myself, to like, oh, that might happen to me. And then it's think, no, you shouldn't be thinking about yourself and all of this. Think about Tasha, and it would make me feel a bit guilty, for bringing it onto me. I guess it happens naturally sometimes, and you're in that very similar position of health. It's only natural to.
Yeah, I mean,
you've seen something happen.
It's having that capacity for both, really, isn't it? But it feels really tough to have that grief split. I mean, I think it's complicated. It's layered grief, and there is that. Whereas if it was in another area for another reason, another part of your life, there would be a clarity, even in that horrendous feeling of loss, that I think when you have cancer yourself, and when, like you've said, you're in treatment and you've got your diagnosis, so how do you feel, like, if someone said to you, was it worth it? Was it, like that sadness? Because I think some people do avoid, making friends because it's just, is it too hard on the other end to lose them? And I was wondering, what would you say to that?
Yeah, so I was one of those people. Before joining Shine, that was one of the reasons. One was I worried it would be depressing. One, I worried, I don't think I really want to make friends with other people that I might lose. That might not be a good thing for me. It might be too painful. And it did put me off from joining Shine, for a while. But having gone through it, what I would say to other people is that obviously, of course, losing her was incredibly painful and sad. But the positivity and the fun and the laughs and the support and the empathy that being a friend gave far outweighed the pain. And I guess the way I see it is that nothing in life comes for free, unfortunately. And perhaps pain and grief is the small price we have to pay for all the goodness that she brought and the positives that she brought to my life and many others. And she's not with us now. She still inspires me, and I still carry her, and she still inspires me. She was big into her like fitness and exercise, and often she'd be there doing a bicycle ride or doing a yoga class. And if I'm having a down day or a day where I'm really struggling, I think, what would Tasha do? And it really motivates me. Get up and to go and do something. Like Hannah said, it always motivates me to do something. She was such a positive, vibrant, happy person, and she loved to travel, and she loved like similar things that I like doing. And I always think, right, what should I do today that would honor her memory and make her happy, that I've done that, and it also brings me happiness to do that. So
I've heard you say do it for Tasha.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And what would Tasha do is like nice slogans to have.
Yeah, I used to always text her like saying, "Oh, I'm having a WWTD moment." A what would Tasha do moment. And yeah, I do things for Tasha. I'm like, no, get up and go and do this really. And I do fun things as a result of that, really good things. Went to Holland, and there was a big swing over the side of a building at like 200 and something foot in the air. And it's really not something that I would normally do, but I'm like, I'm going to do it for Tasha. I'm going to carry her on this, journey with me on this swing. And there I was swinging across this building. So yeah, like Hannah says, I do lots of weird and wonderful things to honor our memory, and hope our spirit kind of lives vicariously on through.
Oh my God, I love that. It sounds terrifying just hearing about it. I'm getting a sense of Tasha from your conversation, feeling like I know her. I remember once, she wasn't someone that was a friend of mine, but I met her at a cancer event, and she was such a force of nature. And when she was talking to me, she was like, "Oh, you need to do the skydive." And it was as if I was already jumping out of the plane. Like I could feel the wind on my face. Like she just had that kind of like, "You're going to do it." And I knew she was incredibly ill and she didn't have much time. And out of my mouth came the words, "Yes." And as soon as I said it, I thought, oh my God, I can't back down. And she did pass away before I did the jump out of the plane. I would never have done it, ever in a million years. I'm never going to do it again, but it was incredible.
Yeah.
And yeah, like what a shame it would be to miss out on those experiences where like any other friend that takes you on this kind of expansive, bringing out different parts of you.
It enriches your life in a way that you might not have done otherwise, like gives you experiences like you might not have done otherwise.
So,
and when you asked me before about what I would say about, like if someone asks, will it be painful? Is it worth it all? Even knowing the pain of losing Tasha, if you rewound the clock and put me back to start of breakout program and said, you can either go and you'll be friends with Tasha and you'll have all this wonderful friendship and meet this wonderful person, but it might be a little bit painful, or you can just leave it. I would do it all again in a heartbeat. She was only around for a relatively short period of my life, but what a wonderful time it was. And I wouldn't change it for the world. So glad that I met her, and that her positivity and everything carries on in my life, even to this day, even though she's not physically around anymore. She's still very much pushes me along and carries me along, and I look back at funny little conversations we've had or little messages she sent me, and they still make me smile. So even though there's pain, you can have pain and joy and gladness. You can be sad the person's gone or glad they were there, and I'm glad she was there. And
that's so beautiful.
I always say to people, if somebody said to you, you're going to get to go to an amazing holiday, you're going to go and see all these wonderful things, you're going to have a great time, it's going to be the best experience of your life. Obviously it's going to come to an end. Do you want to go or do you not? You're going to go, even though you know it's going to come to an end.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful way of articulating that. And I want to bring Hannah in here. If someone is listening to this and they've just heard, and maybe this is the first time that they've lost a friend, what is like some of the ways that you can kind of be aware of the effect on you, or like ways that you can maybe look after yourself, or things that you've done to kind of in those first early days of sitting with that and processing it?
I think there's a number of things, aren't there? I think there's helplessness that comes out quite apparently, when you lose somebody, because we're also helpless. We can't change it as much as we would want to. I think there's also an awareness of helplessness. If you're a person that always helps people as well, it's quite a difficult place to find yourself in. And I think helplessness comes out throughout the whole cancer journey, whether it's for yourself or for other people. I think there's a danger that we could isolate ourselves away and lock ourselves away because we don't want to maybe darken other people's doors. And I think the guilt for surviving when others haven't is always, it's a perfectly natural feeling. Whilst we all feel guilt of having survivor's guilt, it's a perfectly natural feeling. And we will all feel that at some point. It's bound to affect our moods, might result in outbursts of emotional disruption. And it might also result in, I wish I'd done this for that person, or I wish I'd done that for this person, or I wish I told them that. They know. I know that's really difficult when you're sat on in the emotional part of the now, but they know. And I think we've also got to remember that we've got to be kind to ourselves as well. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't acknowledge the guilt and we shouldn't acknowledge the helplessness, but we have got to be super kind to ourselves. And as part of the programs that we deliver, breakout or circles, we teach something called self-compassion, and it's certainly not my default mode, and I don't think it's any of our default mode actually that are on here, but I do believe that it's really important that we are kind to ourselves, because we've all experienced a really tough experience with cancer, whatever that might look like, and it's important that we should remember that, as well as the people we lose. And I think if we have just lost somebody, I think I try and do something to honour them. So that might be just quite reflectful time to sit and think about them, the fun times, maybe the hard times. It might be I go for a walk, perhaps not today because it's peeing it down with rain. Might kind of think, well, actually, maybe they're having the last laugh on me. They're trying to get me wet. So I think if we can try and turn the sorrow into something fun, like a candle, find something that you can put around your house to honour them, or have something that's just a gentle reminder of something that they remind you of. I don't know what that might be. So for Tasha, it might be when we have a glass of wine. It might be when you're doing your yoga class. For Ian, I've got a star on the window. So I think you've just got to find something that helps you remember that person. Yeah. But also yourself. I think it's really important that we for ourselves.
I think that talking, that kindness, and whatever emotions are coming up, so normal, so normal. Thank you so much to both of you for talking today. And, I know that this is, it can have all the emotions, because, your face when you were talking about Tasha, Mari, was just lit up. I really wish that I had met her, but I kind of feel like I have from talking to you.
Amazingly fun person, wasn't she? To Hannah. She was a lovely, lovely girl. Lovely person.
Camaraderie that she put around the group was amazing. And I think,
she always brightened everyone's...
We do talk about her a lot. And so actually her spirit lives on, doesn't it? Because actually...
Definitely. Yeah.
So I think it's important that we honour our friends. I think, there's unfortunately many people that I've come to know through doing some of the work with Shine, and the loss is always hard. But I think for me, I believe that the good that comes from this outweighs the bad. And I'm a much more enriched person as a result of learning from them, but also sharing my knowledge with others that perhaps maybe makes their experience of cancer maybe easier or more to come to terms with where they find themselves.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to both of you. It's just really lovely talking today. I know it's such a big topic, and I know at different times, different people that I've met have affected me. You do need a moment to sit and think about them and talk about it and express that. And it was really lovely to be with you and do that today. For all of you out there listening, if there's a topic that you think isn't discussed enough, something that you think that would be really helpful, get in touch. Let us know. Let us know if you want to be a guest as well. Please hit like or subscribe or rate, because it really makes a difference. It bumps us up and other people can find us. Thank you to the wonderful radio facilities for sponsoring our podcast. They're amazing. We have a Shine Connect coming up next week. Hannah, do you know the dates?
Yeah, so it's the 12th of November through to the 17th of November.
I'm not good with maths or dates, so I'm so glad you were there. 12th through the 17th. If you look on the
shinecancersupport.org website, you'll find a place to register for it. But yeah, so Saturday the 12th of November through to Thursday the 17th.
It is an online conference. There's going to be so many different events happening. So do come along. Do check out the website, shinecancersupport.org. Till next time. Bye.